Former President Barack Obama wrote on X, in part, more than 16 million Americans that are at risk of losing their health care because of Republicans in Congress, and they're rushing to pass a bill that would cut federal funding for Medicaid and weaken the Affordable Care Act. The percentage of the U.S. population, by the way, on Medicaid has gone up big time since its creation in 1966. In 1966, when Medicaid was created, 5% of the U.S. population qualified for Medicaid. Right now, roughly 22% of the American population is on Medicaid, a steep jump beginning with the passage of the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare. All right, joining me now is Oklahoma Republican Senator Markwayne Mullin. Senator, great to have you on the program. Big win, not just in the House and the Senate, for the American people, for the President of the United States. Medicaid and health care will be one of the ways that Democrats look to attack the big, beautiful law. Now, you can already see them cutting the ads. They're already putting this information out about the number of people they're going to lose health care. How will you respond to that line of attack from Democrats?
Well, Democrats don't have a problem with lying, and that's what they're absolutely doing. I mean, you saw the chart right there. And let me throw out something else to you. Medicaid was designed for those that live under the poverty line. We have 35 million people that live under the poverty line here in the United States. Yet your chart just there showed we're over 90 million people that are enrolled on Medicaid. Now, Medicaid is designed for those in need. What we're trying to do as the Republican Party is maintain Medicaid for what it was designed for, because it's literally not solvent right now. We can't keep affording to allow people to rip the American taxpayers off. When we start talking about we're reforming Medicaid, not cutting Medicaid, meaning that we're going to kick people off that are just lazy or gaming the system. And by lazy, a work requirement of 80 hours a month, that means that they only have to work 20 hours a week or go to school 20 hours a week or volunteer 20 hours a week. And by the way, this is for people that are able-bodied individuals with no dependencies and no medical conditions. So they're perfectly able to go to work. We're just trying to give them a helping hand rather than letting them be dependent and become lazy. Let them be contributors to the United States. Let them become taxpayers again, and we can save Medicaid for those that need it the most.
And that's the question for everybody watching. What was the intention of Medicaid? You just pointed out about 10% of the U.S. population is at the federal poverty level, but 21% of the population is now on Medicaid. In some states like New Mexico, 33% of the population is on Medicaid. So who should this be for? Who was it intended for? But you can still hear the ads they're going to cut. On the reverse, I'm curious how you guys will respond to all the Democrats that voted against the big, beautiful bill. There'll be a lot of people that voted for the taxes to be raised, that voted to not fund border security. So they'll have to play some defense as well when it comes to their vote.
They're going to have to explain why they were wanting to raise taxes by the tune of $4 trillion on Americans inside the United States. They're going to have to explain why they didn't want to secure the border. They're going to have to explain why they didn't want to plus up our military and literally bleed peace through strength. They're going to be the ones that's going to have to explain why these lies that they said, that the tens of thousands of people are going to be dying each year. They're going to have to explain where all those morgues are that's holding those bodies, because they won't exist. They're going to have to explain, like J. Paul, when I go through a lot of airports and I've never seen anybody crying on their shoulder, why they have to exaggerate and lie all the way through to get people's attention. The American people are fed up with their antics, which is why they voted 240 days ago to put the Republicans in charge so we can deliver big things just like this and get America back on track.
All right. Senator Markwayne Mullin from Oklahoma, thanks so much for being with us here today. Congratulations on all the hard work paying off.
Thank you, Will.
All right.
Well, he's clearly has been on the phone or talking with members. He's hoarse this morning, the leader there, trying to negotiate some deals there. It looks like they do have the votes, though. The bill's passage would mark the latest in a string of historic wins for the Trump administration.
The president is expected to highlight these victories at the Iowa State Fair tonight as he kicks off the celebration of America's 250th birthday.
Hugging the flag. Senior White House correspondent Peter Doocy joins us live with more. Hey, Peter.
Good morning, but for now, President Trump is still here in the White House residence, where he was up, as you just heard, until the wee hours of the morning, personally whipping Republican holdout votes. But it worked, and now he does not need a plan B to deliver on this first tranche of campaign promises. And when the big, beautiful bill inevitably passes, it's going to add to a week and a half of key moments, consequential moments in this second term for him. We made a list. It starts on June 23rd with the Supreme Court allowing the Trump administration to restart swift deportations of migrants away from their home countries. 4 days later, the Supreme Court sided with the Trump administration on nationwide injunctions in that birthright citizenship case. June 30th, the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ closed at record highs. They capped the best quarter in over a year. Two things on July 1st. First, Israel accepted the Trump-led ceasefire plan that could end the Gaza war in 60 days. And also, UPenn modified a trio of school records set by the transgender swimmer Leah Thomas. Then July 2nd, yesterday, Trump announced a trade deal with Vietnam that's going to let U.S. goods into that country duty-free. We talked about the markets. Look at this. The all-time highs. S&P 500, 6227. The NASDAQ, 20,393. President Trump also feeling good about border security. He posted this last night. Congratulations, America. The June border statistics are in, and once again, they are the lowest recorded numbers in United States history. The U.S. Border Patrol reported 0 releases of illegal aliens into the country. And the president has been very excited ever since he got back here about the next year's America 250 birthday celebration. The countdown to that begins tonight in Des Moines, Iowa. But the president is not going to leave the White House until this afternoon. So that America 250 celebration, we believe, is also going to turn into somewhat of a big, beautiful bill celebration because it's going to be the president's first time in front of a crowd since we believe it to, since we think it will have passed between now and then. Back to you.
Peter, thank you.
Thank you, Peter.
The bill got through the House's Speaker, Mike Johnson. Speaker Johnson, congratulations. Before we get to how you got this done, the political criticism of the bill, and I know you're hearing this, is that voters won't feel the tax cuts because that's an extension of what they're already accustomed to, but they will feel the Medicaid and the food stamp cuts. You would say what to that?
No, I would say that's nonsense. We are basically enacted in this agenda what we did in the first 2 years of the Trump administration, but this time we did it on steroids. You remember, after that first 2 years, we brought about the greatest economy in the history of the world because we cut taxes and cut regulations. We did that again, we extended it, but we added all sorts of other features, pro-growth policies to really have jet fuel to the U.S. economy. And everyone will be experiencing that before the midterms, Raymond. That's what's so important.
Yeah. Mr. Speaker, I have to get to this. President Trump just posted about you on Truth Social moments ago. You ready? He has great strength and wisdom and will go down as one of the most successful speakers in the House history, maybe even the best of them all. Thank you, Mike. Okay, tell me, who was the hardest to convince to support this bill, Mr. Speaker? And tell me about what the press described as the conga line running through the Oval Office. How important was the president and the VP's efforts here?
Well, let me just say first, we have the commander-in-chief who is truly in command. He has brought America back. It is peace through strength, and he exerts that strength in every way he can to help advance the agenda and advance the best interests of the American people. And that certainly extended to what happened in the Congress. I mean, he was directly engaged, involved. He knows the issues. He called me multiple times through the process over the last several days and said, put me on the phone with anybody you need. He also brought in small groups of members, that conga line, to the White House and visited with them, and that was very effective. So he's one of the greatest advocates, and it's been a great partnership to work. And it's what a unique thing, and what a special thing it is to have unified government, where you have Republicans in charge of the White House, the Senate, and the House. We're using it effectively, and we're going to deliver for the American people, Raymond.
Who particularly, is there anybody you had to call in the big dog to help push over the edge?
Well, you know, I had several subgroups of members who were concerned about different things. You know, we have a very diverse caucus. They're all conservative Republicans, but they come from all over the country, and they represent very different districts. So different issues were of bigger interest, more or less to different people. So it's a long, deliberative process. Look, I know all these members so well. I love each of them. I know what they bring to the table. And the idea is to get the most conservative product we can that helps the most American people. We achieved that here, and we're really proud of everything that's in this bill.
I know members of that Freedom Caucus were very concerned that this would balloon the debt. They were looking for more cuts. What promises did you make to them, and when might those cuts become apparent? Will that be done in subsequent legislation and rescission? When would you do that?
Yeah. Well, first of all, it's important to point out, not only would it have the biggest tax cut in U.S. history that we just voted on today and enacted into law, we also had the largest savings that's ever been achieved by Congress in its history, $1.6 trillion. Now, is that enough? No, it doesn't satisfy the Freedom Caucus or me. We're all conservatives in this, and we understand we got to get America back on the right fiscal trajectory. So this is the first of a 5-step process to get us back to fiscal stability. The reconciliation bill today was a big, giant leap forward, but we're going to do this again. We're going to have a second reconciliation package in the fall and a third one in the spring of next year for the next 2 fiscal years. And we're going to have rescissions packages. The White House is sending us collections of items to claw back the spending that was wasted in fraud, waste, and abuse, and we're going to appropriate at lower levels. The Republican Party is the party to get us back to fiscal responsibility. We can't do it overnight, though, Raymond. It took us a while to get in this situation, but we are on the right track, and the president is committed to it as well.
Mr. Speaker, Joe Biden turned out today. He tweeted his response to the passage of the bill. He called it reckless and cruel. It closes rural hospitals and cuts food assistance for our veterans and seniors. It jacks up energy bills, and it could trigger deep cuts to Medicaid, or Medicare rather, while driving up the deficit by $4 trillion. All of this to give a massive tax breaks to billionaires. Working people deserve better, the former president said. Your response, Mr. Speaker?
Those talking points are older and tireder than Joe Biden himself. None of us believe he actually wrote that. Some staffer did, but they're using talking points distributed by the DNC, the Democratic Party, and they're blatantly false. We can demonstrate that this bill is going to be better for everyone. What we did in Medicaid is strengthen the program, strengthen that safety net so that it is available for the people that need it most, and that's the disabled, the elderly, young pregnant women, for example. We're going to make young, able-bodied men who are able to work. We put work requirements in. That is going to eliminate a lot of the abuse in the program, and it's going to preserve those things for the people that really actually need it. Work requirements, by the way, Raymond, is about an 87% issue in public opinion polling because everybody understands that's common sense.
Yeah, and I mean, when you're lifting the tax burden on overtime, on car payments, on tips, that is a huge relief for working people. I mean, those are the really working people of America and the backbone of the country. Mr. Speaker, before I let you go, there were those doomsayers just a week ago who said, you know, Speaker Johnson will never be able to pull this thing off. This could be the end of his ride. How are you feeling tonight?
Well, they've written my eulogy about 10 times, but I say ye of little faith. Sometimes it's good to be underestimated, Raymond, but we're going to continue to deliver. This team's united. The Republican Party is on a roll, and President Trump is winning. Every time he turns around, there's more of that to come.
Did Hakeem Jeffries do anything today? What was that about, that 8.5-hour intermission?
He embarrassed his party, frankly, and they really don't have anything to run on. They have nothing to argue. There's no principle, policy, or platform they can stand on right now, and they don't have a leader. It was performance art. And what Republicans are doing is delivering results, not performances. I think the contrast was clear for the American people, and we're delighted to have that on the world stage.
Mr. Speaker, happy Independence Day to you.
Let's go ahead and bring correspondent Alexandria Hoff. She joins us live from the North Lawn of the White House tonight. Hi, Alex.
Hi, Jillian. Yeah, right now the president is on his way to Iowa. He's going to provide remarks from there this evening. And he has spent the last 2 days selling his big, beautiful bill to hold out Republicans. Tonight, he seeks to sell it to every American.
We're sort of celebrating like the biggest bill of its kind ever signed. And it's going to make this country into a rocket ship.
At this moment, President Trump is sitting pretty aboard Air Force One, preparing to celebrate the big, beautiful bill's victory as he kicks off America 250, a year-long celebration of America's founding. Then it's right back to D.C., where there are festivities to be had.
When Donald Trump signs this bill tomorrow on America's birthday, the independence of our nation, you will start seeing historic growth like we've never seen before.
House Speaker Mike Johnson said the bill's signing could happen right as B-2s are scheduled for a White House flyover. You just can't script this any better, he said.
This is what leadership looks like. It's President Trump's leadership united the Republican Party. Everyone had their say, and now everyone's coming together.
But in the process, some Republicans voiced concern over how Americans will ultimately perceive the mega bill's cost and health coverage reforms. Democrats predict it will cost the GOP its majority.
Will it affect the elections? Well, that's what America's all about. When something is big and ugly and betraying as this passes, of course it'll be an issue in the election.
The Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee released a memo stating from now until November 2026, the DCCC will continue to communicate the harm this bill will cause. But for the president, the landmark legislation is another feather in his cap, cementing his reputation as a deal maker on top of other recent wins in the Supreme Court, overseas, and on trade. Today, the markets closed at historic highs and down egg prices, which the president highlighted earlier.
It's the fourth time in a row the president has beat expectations on Jobs Day.
The just-released June jobs report also shattering expectations. Since the president came into office, the economy created 671,000 jobs. The unemployment rate this month unexpectedly dipped to 4.1%.
Interest rates, though, still a thorn in the president's side. And he was asked today how exactly it was that he won over Republicans who are on the fence about the big, beautiful bill. He said he didn't strike traditional deals, but simply explained to them how good this bill will be for the country. Jillian.
All right, Alex Hoff at the White House for us tonight. Thank you.
Well, we are watching the House floor here as we await a final vote. Yes, final vote. We mean it this time on President Trump's big, beautiful bill. And you can see there Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries giving a marathon speech to delay passage. I believe he is on hour 5 of his comments. Let's bring in Fox News contributor Karl Rove to talk all things big, beautiful bill and this big moment for President Trump. He's at the White House watching this. Karl, he's getting ready to go to Iowa to tout this as soon as they can get this done. They have the votes finally. But I want to ask you about the important work that comes after they pass this, and that is the messaging and trying to help people at home understand that this is good for them, because right now that doesn't appear to be so. About 59%, I believe, according to a Fox News poll of Americans, have a negative view. So how do they win this messaging war?
Well, I think you're absolutely right. The polling, the focus has been on getting the bill passed, and it's an extraordinary achievement to take this big a piece of legislation with as many moving parts as it has, and get it past the House, get it past the Senate, send it back to the House, and get it passed again is remarkable. And let's not kid ourselves, this required not only presidential leadership, but the Speaker of the House and the Senate Majority Leader have demonstrated key leadership as well. But you're right, pass the bill, check that off. But there are 3 other steps that need to be taken. First of all, the president needs to lead the effort to go out and explain it. He has the biggest megaphone in America. He needs to deploy it on explaining why this is the right thing to do and what it's going to do for people. And that means he needs to go on the offense. For example, Democrats have been attacking, saying people are going to lose their Medicaid coverage. The president needs to go out and say the people who are going to lose their coverage are the able-bodied who refuse to work, they're going to be the illegal aliens, and they're going to be the people who don't belong in the system according to the laws that we have in the United States on the books. So if you're a Democrat and you're criticizing us, then you're defending people who are able-bodied and refuse to work. You're defending having illegal aliens on our tab, and you're in favor of allowing people who are today improperly on the rolls to remain on the rolls. If you want to defend that, Democrats, go ahead and do it. But most important, perhaps of all, is under promise and over deliver. Remember the problem that Joe Biden had? Bidenomics is working, he said, when Americans didn't think it was working at all. And the administration and Republicans in Congress need to make certain they under promise and over deliver, say that this is going to take time to make its impact felt, but it's going to help strengthen our economy and control our spending.
Karl, I covered the Obama White House when Obamacare passed. The next couple election cycles were defined by that massive piece of legislation. Do you expect that to be the case in next year's midterms, the next year, and the next presidential in 2028? At this legislation?
I think it'll be a big impact on, I think it'll have a huge impact on 2026, because remember, as these changes, particularly the Medicaid changes, come into effect, people are going to be losing their coverage. The able-bodied, if think about it, there was an interesting study done of able-bodied people on Medicaid, and you know what their #1 activity was if they weren't working? It was watching television, and #2 was playing online games. And so we are going to, the Republicans had better go on the offense and say, we are doing what you told us to do, which is to make certain that this program served the vulnerable among us. Medicaid was meant for poor seniors, for children in poor families and for the disabled, and we should not be paying for health care for people who are able-bodied and can work and are refusing to work. This is why they got to go on the offense. But yeah, it's going to be a big impact, and the work is just beginning. There's going to be always a tendency to say, we got the bill passed, oh, let's all take the time off, and God, we got it done. That's the requirement that you then go to work.
Yeah. Carl, we ran out of time, but you wrote a great piece in the Wall Street Journal about how we should be celebrating the July 4th holiday, and you say that we need to read the Declaration of Independence. So everybody should go out there and read that op-ed written by you. Thank you for joining us, and happy 4th.
Thanks, Carl.
You bet. Same to you.
Kevin Hassett, the Director of National Economic Council of the United States. You obviously are here to respond to the critics as we do watch Hakeem Jeffries take to this lengthy speech on the House floor. How do you respond to his criticisms? I mean, one of his biggest points is that this bill will hurt the country fiscally. To that you say what?
No, what I'm saying is that he's engaged right now in a truly senseless and futile effort to stop a bill that's going to pass. And by doing that, he's showing that he supports the biggest tax hike in history. He supports insecure borders. He supports basically putting millions and millions of people out of work because of the biggest tax hike in history. Talk about losing health insurance and deals with the devil. This position that the Democrats are taking is completely economically indefensible. And they haven't, think about it this way, they haven't had one person vote for the bill. And so they're all on the record now saying, hey, you know what? Your overtime, I want to tax it. Your tips, I want to tax them. Your Social Security benefits, I want to tax them. Your border, I want it wide open. I just can't believe that the party has fallen so far away from the party that, Bill Clinton, back when he said that the era of big government is over, well, now it's like the era of socialism has taken over the Democratic Party.
So is it your prediction at this hour as we watch this ongoing speech, and lots of water to get him through it, that this will ultimately make it to the president's desk?
It's going to 100% make it to the president's desk. We expect that it'll pass today and that there'll be a big ceremony at the White House tomorrow.
So as far as AOC and some of these critics who have been blasting the bill on the floor, Kevin, they have said this is a tax break for billionaires. There are some Republicans also who are saying, I'll vote for it, but they concede that it's not perfect. Mike Herodopoulos out of Florida admits if we're looking for perfect, you're in the wrong town. So how do you address those critics?
I mean, at some point, right, we're talking about angels on the head of a pin or something. This is as good a bill as I've ever seen. This is the best, most beautiful tax bill in American history. There isn't even a second place that's close because it's going to create so many jobs. It's going to add $10,000 into the pockets of the typical American family. It's going to put millions and millions of more people to work. And it's going to help seniors who want to make a little more money than their Social Security is giving them right now. Work a little bit part-time and have more money in their pockets as well.
Okay,
so every single thing about this bill is like supercharging the economy. And you don't really have to believe me, Sandra. Just look at the data today. They had a huge job number today since President Trump's in office because people are anticipating all the positive economic effects of his policies that we've created more than 2 million jobs for U.S. residents, and everybody said that while we were deporting the illegals, that it would make it so that there wouldn't be any jobs, there wouldn't be any production, we'd have a recession, and we've actually cut non-resident employment by 500,000 at the same time. And so we're creating all these jobs. We just got advanced durables numbers today that showed that there's a capital spending boom as well. So this is as good as it gets for an economy, and it's as beautiful a bill as I can imagine.
So let me dig into that a little bit, because obviously you're warning that of the economic peril that would follow not getting this through, and those tax cuts not remaining in place. But what can you tell us about the impact this will have, with your certainty that it does make it to the president's desk? I still see that since Election Day, gas prices are still up 2.7%. Since Inauguration Day, gas prices are up 2%. Will this result in lowering prices? I mean, you go back to Election Day, and one of the number one concerns of the American people has been inflation and high prices and wage growth. Can you promise the American people that this will ultimately improve their economic status and their economic, comfort here in this country?
For sure. For sure, and the way to think about it, and happy to come on next week with the chart, that if you look at every single measure of inflation has gone down sharply since President Trump took office. And in fact, the most recent runs are below the 2% target of the Federal Reserve after getting 9% inflation from Joe Biden. And you can say, well, why is it that inflation is going down so much? It's because what President Trump's doing is he's creating a supply explosion. And when you have a supply explosion, then there are more goods and the price of goods goes down. And so inflation is way, way down. And it's not just, a macroeconomic thing. You might have seen that the president tweeted that Waffle House has taken off the surcharge on eggs, because even egg prices have gone down, despite, coming in with the avian flu problem that we inherited from Joe Biden.
All right, so leave us off with a thought here. As I can imagine, there are lawmakers who are still watching Hakeem Jeffries on the House floor. He's still going.
I can't imagine anyone still watching.
I mean, well, we've got to cover it. We came in today, right? It's July 3rd. There's got to be some planes to catch. Just leave us off, I guess, with, Speaker Johnson is saying that Republicans now, even the skeptical Republicans, are now excited to pass this. Can you give us a characterization of what you're hearing?
Yeah, and what I'm hearing is that I was in the Oval with the president late in the afternoon, and I don't think I've ever seen a president work harder than he worked yesterday. He talked to just about everybody in the House and went over the benefits of the bill. And I think by the end of the day, there was a massive amount of enthusiasm for the bill, even for the folks who were skeptical, like the Freedom Caucus. But also don't forget that it's the job of the legislators to fight for the things that they believe in, but there's a lot of them. And so sometimes they disagree. But in the end, Speaker Johnson and Majority Leader Thune have driven an incredible process forward. They've gotten enough agreement that we've got a historic new law, and it's something to celebrate on this 4th of July.
All right, so I heard you say you'll come back next week. We'll take you up on that, and we'll
chart.
follow up
Absolutely.
on this. All right, Kevin, always a pleasure. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks, Sandra.
All right.
Now, so let's listen in.
Going with us, and perhaps a lot of you are going with us. How are you? And we have a very big crowd, so it's going to be a lot of fun. And we're sort of celebrating like the biggest bill of its kind ever signed. And it's going to make this country into a rocket ship. It's going to be really great.
Mr. President.
He met with a lot of House Republicans yesterday. What got them to yes?
I think when you go over the bill, it was very easy to get him to a yes. We went over that bill, and point after point, biggest tax cut in history, great for security, great on the southern border. Immigration is covered. We covered just about everything. Again, it's the biggest bill ever signed of its kind.
Mr. President.
Some House Republicans that were concerned about the bill said that they had conversations with you where you made some promises. What promises did you make? Did you tell Representative Wyden that you have some action on gun rights? What sort of deals did you make with those?
Well, I talked to a lot of different Republicans in doing it, and we had a good time in being there. I did not have much of a problem with any of them. As you know, we had 2 negative votes, but we had whatever it was, the final vote. Yeah, I think a few of them I did, but I think they would have gone yes anyway.
What were those deals?
No deals. What I did is we talked about how good the bill is. I mean, that's a deal, I guess, when you think about it. But obviously convinced them, but it was not hard. This is a great bill. This is going to be a great bill.
Mr. President.
Congressman Brian Fitzpatrick was one of you to vote no for the big beautiful bill. Do you want to primary him too?
Well, I was disappointed that he did that. There were 2 of them that voted no, so I was disappointed that he voted no.
Mr. President. What did your call with Vladimir Putin today accomplish?
We had a call. It was a pretty long call. We talked about a lot of things, including Iran, and we also talked about, as you know, the war with Ukraine, and I'm not happy about that.
Mr. President.
On a deal with Ukraine? Do you feel like you made any comments?
No, I didn't make any progress with it today.
Mr. President, how much growth can the country expect from the one big
I think we're going to
bill?
get great growth. I think we'll have growth in record numbers. This is going to be something that's amazing, and everybody was watching it all over the world. And I want to congratulate the Speaker and Tom Emmer and Steve Scalise and everybody else. I mean, they worked so hard, so hard. This has really been going on for over a year, if you think about it. I think, to be exact, about 14 months. And this was the culmination, and I guess it ended a lot earlier. A lot of people thought it would end up the following afternoon. Well, it ended up late in the evening. But They were great.
What do you think it says?
And by the way, on the Senate side, I thought Senator Thune did a fantastic job.
What do you think it says about the power you've amassed within your party compared to your first term that you were able to get this over the finish line?
I think I have more power now. I could say, oh, gee, I don't know. I think I probably do because we've had a great record of success. My first term was very, very successful. We had the greatest economy in the history of our country. I think we're going to blow it away this term. But, we've proven certain things, and I think probably it's got more gravitas, more power.
Sir, you signed a trade deal with Vietnam yesterday. Great deal, 40% on transshipping. Can we expect any more of that before next week, sir?
So we have a couple of other deals, but my inclination is to send a letter out and saying what tariff they're going to be paying. It's just much easier. We have, far more than 170 countries. And how many deals can you make? And you can make good deals, but they're very much more complicated. I'd rather, and I've been like this from the beginning, I'd rather send out a letter saying this is what you're going to pay to do business in the United States. And I think it'll be well received. I think it's just so many countries. And then they go specific. Let's do this, let's do that, beef, ethanol. And I'd rather just do a simple deal where you can maintain it and control it. You're going to pay a 20% or 25 or 30% tariff.
You brought in a record amount.
And we're going to be sending some letters out starting probably tomorrow, maybe 10 a day, to various countries saying what they're going to pay to do business with the U.S.
Mr. President, the incident of a Republican congressman was gunned down last night in Washington, D.C. Do you think it's time for Congress to take back control of D.C.?
I think that D.C. has to become a very safe place. And we're not going to let anything bad happen to D.C. That's our beautiful D.C. And we're not going to let anything bad. And we'll have something to say about it next week.
Mr. President,
why did you pull back why did you pause weapons to Ukraine? Why did you pause weapons?
We haven't. We're giving weapons, but we've given so many weapons. But we are giving weapons, and we're working with them and trying to help them. But we haven't. Biden emptied out our whole country giving them weapons. And we have to make sure that we have enough for ourselves.
What message?
Who are you with? No wonder.
Mr. President, there's going to be a lot of symbolism tomorrow when you sign the One Big Beautiful Bill. On Independence Day, at the White House, kicking off the 250 years of American independence. What message should Americans be getting tomorrow when you sign this bill?
Well, I think it's going to be really a message of proudness. You're going to be proud of your country because our country is doing fantastically well. The economy is great. You saw the stock market today. We're setting records. And in every aspect of our country, we're doing well, despite the fact that we inherited millions of people that shouldn't have been here. And I think we have crime stats that are coming out that are showing the lowest numbers we've had in many years. And that also despite the fact that a lot of people are here that shouldn't have been let into our country. So they're going to be very proud tomorrow. So we're signing at about 5 o'clock. And at about 5 o'clock, we're going to have B-2s and F-22s and F-35s flying right over the White House. And the Speaker and I and John Thune, we're all there together with I think most Republican senators and congressmen and women. And it's going to be a great day. So we'll be signing with those beautiful planes flying right over our heads. All right?
What are your expectations for the next round of talks with Steve Witkoff and his Iranian counterpart?
Well, we're going to see. Steve is a great guy. He's a great negotiator. Iran does want to speak, and I think they'd like to speak to me. And it's time that they do. We're not looking to hurt them. We're looking to let them be a country again. They got beat up, and they were both exhausted, frankly. But Iran really got beat up, and I think they want to meet. I mean, I know they want to meet, and if it's necessary, I'll do it. But Steve is involved, and very much involved, and he's done a fantastic job. All right, one more. I want the people of Gaza to be safe, more important. I want to see safety for the people of Gaza. They've gone through hell. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.